Welcome, brothers and sisters, to our Lenten journey with the saints, day 25. Today's spiritual guide will be Saint Charles de Foucauld. He says, "It is not enough to give the one who asks, but it's necessary to give the one who needs." It seems like a small distinction, and yet an important one to stop by and reflect about. First and foremost, we can find out if we are selfish or not by the way we remedy the needs of the person who asked. Maybe these were spiritual, personal, even material needs that our neighbor found himself in. And now, how we remedied, what did we do about that? Definitely, there are many different ways we can go about it. Now, there are those who need, and there are those who ask. Today's meditation, guided by St. Charles, invites us to go one step further. Not only those who ask, who come to us humbling themselves in their needs, oftentimes biting their pride, being very uncomfortable, and it's inconvenient to ask because it's a way of lowering ourselves and asking for someone else's assistance. But there are also those around us who need to have a creative disposition, an intuition, an ability to see beyond, to notice the people who are in need, and yet, for many different reasons, they don't dare to ask because of their complexes, because of the embarrassment. We can find many motives for which they are unable to ask. But if we have our eyes open towards the poor, those in need, those whom God sends our way, as if saying, look at that person, look at her who is struggling right now, then we cannot remain indifferent saying, okay, I will not help unless he or she will ask me and humble himself or herself. That's not exactly the perfect way to go, because, as I said earlier, that person is not able to, maybe would like to, who knows, maybe even our attitude and the way we carry ourselves does not provoke an openness on the other side. The other person might not feel comfortable because of our pridefulness or our greed and attachment to the material goods. You know, those who have open hearts, who are free, detached from money, they also project this attitude on the outside, so that a person is more inclined to ask that individual. I remember I had a relative who would always say he did not have a penny, and yet the reality was different. But by the fact of projecting this image of being penniless, almost like a poor, it was a way of saying, don't ask me for any assistance because I'm not gonna give you. How about if we project an image of a person who is concerned, who wants to help? I recall a story that a teacher shared with me, that just observing how her students were looking at each other's food, what the other student had in the lunch box during the lunch break, allowed her to see that some students were malnourished, did not receive food for lunch that would satisfy their hunger. And that allowed her to do in a very discreet way a little way of reaching out to that student, saying, hey, how about this snack or that sandwich if you would like to have a bite? As a matter of fact, this teacher started bringing additional sandwiches to school to share with those underprivileged students, let's say. I also can tell you about people who see others, the way they are dressed, the way they go about their lives, even the way their reactions to different conversations. And that is an indicator that a person is in need. Do we have this attentive, intuitive, spiritual insight of seeing a person in need next to us? As we go through this Lent, we are called to give alms. And I would like to invite our creativity. We can ask someone who knows someone, or if we know a family, a person who never dares to ask, but we know, or intuitively we perceive he or she is in need. How about if we give an alms in an unnoticed way? Maybe you can put some money in an envelope and slip it in the mailbox, or through someone else. There are many different ways of helping a person who is in need and never ask you for anything. We are called to be creative, to have this open disposition, to have the eyes of seeing those who are less fortunate, as we can say, those who are struggling, would like to ask, would like to be helped, but one way or another they cannot. Today's task would be to pray that God may send our way those people who are really in need, and maybe they would never ask us for help. Now, how we are going to do and reach out, maybe we can ask, is there anything I can do for you? Or do you know someone who is struggling, who right now goes through a rough time and would appreciate some help? Is there anyone you know I can sustain in these difficult times? There are ways of asking and ways of remedying and reaching out that really brings about our spiritual creativity. Almsgiving, that's the time. Let us ask the Lord to have our eyes open to see those in need and find Christ in the person who is in need. God bless you, brothers and sisters, as we are guided by Saint Charles de Foucauld, who tells us that it is not only necessary to give the one who asks, but it's necessary, it's much needed to give to the person who is in need. God bless you as we continue our Lenten journey with the saints.